and we are now getting started. So Ann Evie, our Vice Chair, Internal Affairs, will be presenting the first few slides, and then Buddy Barnes, the Chair of the Academy and President-elect, will be wrapping up the webinar. Buddy, did you want to start us off with anything?
Well, first of all, thank you for joining us. And yes, this is open to send a message to all fellows. All fellows, whether you're the regional fellow, the post fellow, or a fellow at large, you're definitely invited. And any member who would like to be a fellow has been invited. So the society has been invited to come to this webinar. And thank you for being part of it today. And we can kick off with Ann.
And if you are on, please have your phone on mute. I'm trying not to mute everybody, but please have your phone on mute unless you are wanting to ask a question. Thanks. I hear some feedback from somebody. Ann, it's over to you.
Okay, good morning or good afternoon for most of you. One thing, for those of you that are logged on, through the internet, the chat feature is how we're going to try to handle questions. So if you can put your question in the chat, then at the end of each slide or at the end of each kind of section, we will try and get to those. If you have very specific questions to your situation, a scenario in your post, things like that, we are more than happy to discuss those. Those are probably better for offline after the call. So as Buddy and Kathy said, thank you very, very much for taking your time today to join us. This webinar, as a lot of you know, we've done it in June in previous years, so we're doing it a little earlier now. We do have some changes. The overall timeline is not changing, but we do have changes. We have some more hard deadlines, so we wanted to make sure to get that information out to people as early in advance as we could. And just a reminder, if you can please put your phones on mute, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
You set both ends.
Okay. So a couple of things that I wanted to get out of the way. There are some myths that I've heard over the years that they kind of seem funny at first, but these are things that people have genuinely thought or been told. So I just want to get these out of the way right off the bat. You do not have a better chance of becoming a fellow if you live in the Beltway area. I have heard that that is actually a criteria, and I can assure you right now it is not. You do not have to have been a post president, and we do not have a set number of fellows each year to accept. So those are just things, again, those are some kind of big ones that I've heard over the years that definitely are not true, so I wanted to go on the record right now and let you all know that. Kathy, if you can go to the next slide. So the Academy of Fellows Executive Committee, we have worked very hard over the last year, 2 years. We've got tons of input to get us to where we are now. So we want to be transparent. We want to have more structure. Those are the things that I hope you're going to see from some of our new processes or documents. The first one of these that we'll talk about is the calendar. We have a couple of more hard deadlines than we've had in the past. So the Regional Fellows Point of Contact, that's a role that hasn't been around too terribly long. In the past, we have encouraged folks to send their nominations through the Regional Fellows Point of Contact. There was a lot of confusion, I think, as to if that was required, how you went about that. So now what we've done is we have made that a hard deadline. If you are interested in being nominated for fellow, you need to submit a 50% draft to your Regional Fellows Point of Contact by August 2nd. That is a subjective number. The Regional Fellows Point of Contact, we are communicating with them. We'll have a lot more communication as we get closer. So they're going to be well aware of this. They're going to know kind of some of the things to look for with the 50% draft. The reason that we're doing that is that by August 5th, the Regional Fellows Point of Contact are going to submit the list of nominees that they've received to the national office. So come October, you want to submit your nomination, if you are not on that Regional Fellows Point of Contact list in August, your nomination will not go through that year. The main reason that we're doing this is to kind of take some of the heat off of our Regional Fellows Point of Contact. These folks are a great resource for them. We want to take advantage of all of their knowledge. We want to have them involved in the review process, but we absolutely cannot have people sending the Regional Fellows Point of Contact a draft, with a week to go to get it reviewed. So that's kind of the rationale for that, the timing of that one. August 26th then, that is when your complete draft is going to be due to your Regional Fellows Point of Contact. So all of these August, September dates, we will be communicating these to you, but you can be in direct contact with your Regional Fellows Point of Contact. You should be in direct contact with them as far as the specifics of their review, the timing, things like that. October 1st, completed packets are due to FAME National Office that day. One of the things that I would encourage, once your nomination is submitted, I would follow up, confirm that it has been received. If you don't get an automatic confirmation email, that is your responsibility to make sure that there aren't technical issues that prevent your nomination from getting submitted. So the time between October 1st and December 31st, that is transparent to you all, but we are doing a lot of work during that time. So that is when we're going through our 3 different phases of the reviews. And Betty's going to talk about those phases in the second half of this webinar. But that is a lot of work at different levels, reviewing the nominations with an end goal of having everything wrapped up by the end of the calendar year. Next slide. So, fellows roll, are you ready? One of the things that I would say, a lot of people have heard in their career, some people have the approach of applying for jobs just to get the interview experience. Apply for some even if you don't have any intentions of taking a job. I would say that is not the case with your fellows nomination. There are a lot of people that put time into this. You are putting a ton of time into your nomination. Please don't put in unless you genuinely feel as though you are ready. Some people think, okay, I've hit 10 years, got to put in now. Definitely not the case. Again, it's a case-by-case basis. Make sure that you are in a position that you think you're ready to be a fellow. And we will go through some more of this a little more in detail. The actual nomination form, though, one of the biggest changes here is that it is a single PDF package that gets submitted. You're still going to go online and submit your personal information, but those of you that have done this in the past, a lot of information was input into the website. What we're doing this year, it's going to be one PDF. So you've got your nomination, all of the information, all of your endorsements, all into one package, and that PDF is uploaded. So the actual nomination, and again, we're going to get into the details in the next slide. Really what we're looking at is your impact and future service. So the big parts of your nomination package are your service to FAME and your service to your profession. What we need to really see is the impact that you've had. And this is something that I look at as the so what factor. So what if you've planned a golf event for your post? So what if you've planned this event for 10 years? What we need to see in your nomination package is that you planned a golf event for 10 years and it raised X number of dollars for Wounded Warrior support, or I planned a golf event and I paired up members for mentoring, things like that. So that is, I guess, an overall theme throughout the entire nomination package. Really, really focus on the impact of the different FAME and service to the profession. Review phases. So we have three actual different steps in the review phases, and Buddy is going to go into those in much more detail in the future slides. Next slide. Fellows role. So this is one, you can read this if you want to take just a moment to read. This is a direct quote from the Fellows Pledge. If you go onto the main Academy of Fellows webpage, there is a link to the charge and the pledge. I would encourage everyone who is considering putting in for fellow to read those. Make sure that you are pursuing this for the right reasons. The Academy of Fellows being selected as a fellow, this is not something that should be the pinnacle of your SAME career. This is not something that is, hey, I've been involved for 10 years, 15 years, I'm going to be fellow, and all right, I'm washing my hands of it, and I'm done, I got what I wanted. When you become a fellow, you recommit. You recommit to be engaged, to mentor, and to really fulfill our SAME mission. So again, the charge and the pledge are on our main webpage. I would strongly encourage you to look at those. One of the things in this quote, the national direction. So I think anybody who's relatively involved in SAME, the direction that our organization is going. This is not an actual document. This is the overall direction that we are heading. This is our constitution, our bylaws, what's in our strategic plan, our RVP manual, our ops manual. So the term national direction comes up a few different times in the nomination, like on the nomination form. So just keep that in mind. The strategic plan, that is a document. The Fellows Pledge, that is a specific black and white, set of words. National direction is just everything kind of as a composite. Next slide. Okay, so we're going to get into the nomination form. Kathy, have we had any questions come through in the chat?
Just some minor stuff, but one question that did come up was, will the slides be posted to the website? And they will, along with the recording.
Okay, perfect. Okay, let's get into the actual nomination form. In general, this form is what you've seen before. It is highly, highly based on your service to SAME and your service to your profession. But we're going to kind of go into some detail about the different parts of it. Your nominee information. Please, 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 and pass this on to anybody that you know. Do not call Kathy off at the national office and ask her to check your information. I know that Kathy is more than happy to do that, and she is always pleasant and wonderful, but this is something that we need to be taking on for ourselves. Every SAME member can get online, log in, and see your actual information. So you've got contact information, demographics. It is so important that you keep all of that up to date. One thing that I do not think is in there is your join date, number of years of service. Certain people have access to rosters when they log into their account. If you're one of the 5 or 6 people in your post, every post, president, vice president, secretary, membership chair, all of those people can get in and download their post roster. But I do not believe every member at large can do that. Kathy will correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think that's the case. So don't hesitate to reach out if you do have a question there. A lot of people, you should know your join date, but there are a lot of times we'll see a situation where somebody had a lapse in their membership, or maybe they switched posts and aren't sure if everything was carried over. So if you do have a question, don't hesitate to reach out, but please just make sure that you've done your homework first to see if you can find that information. Checking on all of this, obviously do it sooner than later. That's something you've got the next few months to check on that. Don't wait until August and you're trying to get a draft nomination in. If you go to the main SAME webpage, SAME.org, There's a couple of different ways. You can go to member login. It is very self-explanatory. It's going to come up with your username and password, and then you're going to see one of two things. You're going to see it'll either come up automatically, or you'll have to click on your name, you know, where it shows your account. But again, there's links in there to check your username, your contact information, demographics, all of that. Criteria 2 through 4. You know, these are just a small little point on this slide, but this is the bulk of your nomination. This is definitely where it's at. Criteria 2 is SAME, 3 is your service to your profession. One of the things I would stress is there are very defined word limits, font size, things like that, and those are all right there on the nomination form. We really appreciate if people can stay within those bounds. I will tell you right now that if you go 2 words over, probably not going to be a problem. But we do check the word count. We do look at all of those. And if it's something that is egregious, or if it's something that, you know, we see throughout the whole nomination packet, you know, those definitely are things that, again, they're part of the requirements. So that is enough to get a nomination bounced back if you aren't within those limits. Okay, let's go to the next slide, please. Society knowledge. This is a new one. We had it on the nomination last year, but for those of you who haven't looked at a nomination in a few years, this is going to be new to you. We took a lot of feedback from nominees, from the executive committee, the regional RVPs, and what we've done here is it's a combination of short answer, very, very short type essay questions. These are all questions that can be found on the website. I bet honestly most of you who would put in for fellow probably already know these off the top of your head. But the scoring on these is pretty black and white. Okay, criteria number 6, future fellows role. This is another one that was new last year. We've changed it slightly. This is literally 2 sentences to meet this criteria. So the first part of that is your passion. What is your passion for our mission? And again, that goes to the national direction. You're going to see that turn in that criteria. So what is your passion within SAME? And then the second part of that, how are you going to translate that into action? So just an example, these are really things that need to be measurable. We need to see that so what factor. What is the impact? So if your passion is STEM or the camp, what would not be a good example of how you translate this is, I'm going to promote the SAME case, or I'm going to promote STEM. That's too broad. We need that I am going to start a post program where we send 2 mentors to camp each year. So again, the more measurable, the more direct, definitely less is more wordiness-wise on this criteria. Next slide. So your citation, this is going to be used at the ceremony. Very, very straightforward there. That one does not actually count towards your overall score. The endorsement information, however, does. Endorsements, it seems like, are an area that we typically have a ton of questions and confusion. So I think that we have done a good job clarifying it, but again, we'd love your input. Right now, there are 4 required endorsements. You've got your nominator, who must be a fellow, your regional fellow's point of contact, your RVP, and your post president. I think the biggest thing here is that more does not help. You do not get any more points if you turn in 6 or 8 endorsements than if you just have the 4. So please stick to the 4 endorsements. This has always been a tough one just for me personally, because some of that is outside of your control. So what my RVP says about me in my endorsement letter, I don't have a ton of control over, but that's where it's key to start that in advance. if you don't know your RVP, you know what, that's fine. But it's April, these are due in August, start talking to that person. Help them figure out, what can you do to give them the information that they're going to need to write a good endorsement for you. Next slide. I think that is the end. Yeah, please.
Can I just add? So this is Kathy. I just wanted to mention on the endorsements, one of the reasons that we have these specific people that provide endorsements is, anybody can get 4 friends to write an endorsement, but we want to know that you know who your RVP is and your RVP knows who you are, and same thing with the RFPOC and so on and so forth. So I've gotten this question a lot where people will say, well, does it have to be this person or does it have to be this position? Yes, it does. The only exception to that is if you yourself are the post president or the RVP, and in those cases, usually we ask that you find the deputy or the previous one or somebody that somewhat fulfills that position.
Okay, I will turn it over to Buddy to go through the specific phases of our review process.
So before we start the phase 1 discussion, the review process, are there any questions that you would like to address if you haven't sent in on the chat? If there are questions you need to bring up, would you like to bring them up now? And does anyone have any questions that have not been sent on the chat?
So one person, building off of what I already said, asked if their post president is a nominator, can they choose an alternate? The answer to that is yes. It would just need to, be somebody close to that position. It can't just be, your friend from the Air Force or whatever.
You would think it would be the president-elect or the past president being in that position. So we look at the person coming into a position or having previously had that position being the logical replacement for an individual who is sitting in that position and being nominated. So the review process, the review process is a 3-phase process. The initial phase is the administrative review. October 1st is the last day that the nominations are sent to National. That is a Word document that is emailed in now. When you look at it, all the information must match. So let me back up a bit. If you are a nominator or a nominee, if you're a nominator, have your nominee check their information on the SAME site before you get to that August date, the August date before it comes in 50%. Interesting, there was a postcard sent out and I received one this week which says update your record. If in fact anyone who reviews this webinar or is listening to it did not get a postcard, that could mean that you have your wrong address in the SAME database. So it's very important to keep all your information up to date with SAME.
If I could please ask everybody to put their phone on mute, that would be very helpful.
So in following phase 1, as you look at it, we need your member information, we need it on time. If you have extenuating circumstances, you can present those to Kathy Off. Word count matters. And to that, when we go and totally evaluate these, if in fact it says 900 words, no more than 900 words, and it tells you the font size, follow that. Less is better than more. Not meeting the requirements or overrunning your word count can cause reduction in points in the final evaluation. So let's go to phase 2. Phase 2. All the packets are in. They have been administratively reviewed by SAME staff. From that point, we forward all the packages to the regional point of contact, fellow point of contact. And they provide a yes or no comment on each one of the files. If they don't believe that the file is complete, they don't believe that it warrants, then they put a no. If they do believe it warrants selection, then they put a yes. The no packets are reviewed by the chair and the deputy chair. If there is anyone that is confirmed as a no, that package is not ready this year, then they would be eliminated from the process and an explanation sent to them by the academy of what it was eliminated for, why it was not substantial for this year. To let everyone know, last year we had this process. We reviewed every one of the files, and so depends on how poorly constructed the nomination is, that I would anticipate very seldomly do we stop the process on an individual at this point. Now we go to phase 3.
Buddy, we did get a question.
Yes.
Somebody asked if they have a very large region as an RFPOC, will the requirement to know each applicant be satisfied by a focused meeting or phone call or two? And I said yes. I want to make sure that's correct.
Yes.
Yes.
One thing on a large region, and I saw that, Jim, you may even want to discuss with the RVP to have a deputy work with you. Having 2 regional fellow point of contacts in a region with 14 posts is a logical thought process, and that way you can split the workload up. When we go to phase 3, phase 3 is the scoring process that occurs. The scoring group is the executive committee of the Academy of Fellows. That consists of the chair, the deputy chair, and the 5 vice chairs that we have. All of the individuals review and provide points on in each element of the package, and they do that. Everyone does that independently. Once we get all of those independent views taken care of, we move forward. But let me go on. The list that you see on the website and on this program have changed percentages from last year. We provided less percentage weight to endorsements, future role, and society knowledge, the bottom 3, the future elements. We put those points back in service to SAME detail and service to profession detail. So we gave a little more weight to their history as opposed to as much weight for the future. So now we'll move on to the next slide. Deliberation meeting. We do everything independently, and then we come together for a deliberation meeting. That is to better understand if, in fact, since we have a group of people from 7 different areas of business, whether it's in government, we have government employees, we have consultants, we have marketing people, we have engineers, we have architects. So if someone has a question about something as it's noted on the webinar, if an engineer has a question about the background of someone in marketing and business development, or an architect has a question about something in operations, then that's where we can answer those questions around the table. Should that alter someone's score because they have a better understanding, then that is allowable at this meeting. And we do that, and then those become the fixed scores on the individual.
So, Buddy, we had a question about
Yeah.
phase 2. Does the phase begin after final submittal? Phase 2 begin after final submittal?
Phase 2 begins after phase 1, which is when it's turned in. So after October 1st, let's give a general review. If by the 10th of October, we've finished all the administrative reviews, then they are all forwarded in phase 2 to the regional fellows. They will be giving a number of weeks to be able to review this process and provide their go and their yes and no. From that, they send all that in, they keep their forms, and they send in a spreadsheet that says what the information they have, and at that point, phase 3 begins. I hope that answers the question. Phase 3 is the scoring by the executive committee, and phase 3 begins at that point. We have a full day meeting. From that full day meeting, we come out with our recommendations that are provided by the chair to the president for the president's approval. After the president has approved, the selectees and the deferred nominees, deferred happen to be people who were not selected this year, but they've deferred for whatever reason, and they are all contacted. Selectees are contacted and provided a letter and their fellow's pin. The deferred are contacted by the chair or a vice chair, and we discuss every point of their nomination and where it would need to be improved to be a viable nominee for fellow. So from that point, we move forward. From there, the process is completed until we have the investiture. The investiture next year will move to JETSI. Joint Engineering Training Conference will be the home of the investiture in the future. So we are now at a phase where we can take additional questions. Before we take questions, let me make a comment. Going back to the August 2nd date, the August 2nd is when a 50% package comes to the regional fellow. Letter regional fellow. Okay, great music. Thank you for turning it off. At the 50% complete, I sent a letter to regional fellows, RVPs, and deputies on April 12th. And I tried to define that 50% for you so you have an understanding. That 50% is, I would assume you would need to have items 1, 2A, and 3A, which are the list of positions, and some of 5 completed. And then work being done on 2B and 3B, which are the flushing out of what you did in those positions. So that's generally a 50%, a relatively brief element, and you know that they're started. They've listed all their positions, and they're ready to go. So, one other thing, when they're writing in 2B and 3B, which are discussing their positions, always remember, they need to say what the challenge was, what action they took, and what were the results. It's all associated with result-driven. So now we are available. We will look and see any other questions, but we are available for additional written questions to respond to, or we are available for verbal questions that may come up.
Okay, I put everybody on mute to get rid of the feedback. So I just want to quickly, somebody.
Can they put their hand up on that?
They can, but if they're not.
Yeah. Oh, if they're not on. Yeah.
So somebody asked a question, is the debrief offered to the nominee only, or is the nominator included in the debrief? And I answered this one, let me know if I'm wrong. The nominator and RSPOC are included on the written debrief, along with the nominee, of course, and then the nominee will also be verbally debriefed.
Yeah, the verbal debrief this last year was with the nominee, and then I provided a written document of everything we discussed to those three people.
Okay, so I'm going to take everybody off mute if you're wanting to ask a question verbally.
Hey, Kathy, this is Ann Avey. Something I wanted to clarify, this was another one that came up in the chat, and I don't know if everybody saw it. There was a question about the calendar. So if you go on to the Academy of Fellows website right now, you can find the nomination form, and the calendar is right there on our page in the link to, I think it's how to nominate a fellow. So that will have that calendar, August 2nd, August 5th, all of those dates. The question that was asked was more so after the nominations have been submitted. That aspect of the calendar, phases 1 through 3, we don't have published dates for those. That should be transparent to people. Once you submit your nomination, we go through those 3 phases. Those dates might change a little bit here and there, but those will be completed between October 1st and December 31st. So again, just the phases, there is not a set schedule for those.
Does anybody else have a question they'd like to ask?
Kathy, this is Jim Donahue. I may have missed this. I had to leave the room a bit, but this came up last year, and I talked with Buddy about it. It's the knowledge of the nominee. Now, I'm the RV. Hello? Are you still there, Kathy?
I like it. I can hear you. I can hear a lot of people that don't have their phones on mute.
Oh.
You always have no chance. That's what sucks is, okay, see, I thought we was going to make a run.
Kathy, should I be speaking?
I can hear you.
Okay. The question is,
I mean, you think how good they had the other guy, Courage, or whatever.
Go ahead, Jim. I muted everyone else.
okay. It's the damn Russians that are hacking in. You know that. But aside from that, if the RVP or the RVP point of contact really don't know who the member is that's being nominated, and we're required to provide an endorsement, I don't see that we can really be honest in the endorsement. And I'm of the opinion that maybe, given a case like that, that the RVP has to provide an endorsement. But like, for example, the point of contact, I would say that we would have the option to say, I'm sorry, but I don't know this person other than the nomination form itself. Would that be acceptable?
All right, Jim. Let me answer to the community. The 4 people, it is terribly important. It is imperative that the nominee meet and get to know the 4 people who are going to endorse them. I assume they know the nominator. I must assume they probably know their post president. Now we have those 2 people that may not be in their local area, and it is incumbent on the individual to meet with those people. Let me take you to your example. If you, as a regional fellow, receive a nomination package, even at the 50% rate, and you don't know who that person is, that would be a wise thing to respond to them and say, I do not know who you are, And to be able to endorse you, we need to have a meeting. We need to have people get out and meet their RVP and their regional fellow. If you do not, either one of you, do not feel that you can endorse that individual, then I would not expect to get an endorsement from you. And therefore, their package would be incomplete. And they would not be moved forward in the evaluation process. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I think it's a question, Buddy, of geography. Some regions are widespread, and it may be impossible to meet face-to-face with somebody, so that would lend itself to telephone conversations. And I guess we would have to hope that there's enough conversation that the endorser feels comfortable providing an endorsement.
Well,
Buddy, if I can add something to that.
I must tell you, if I was the nominee, I would make sure that I was having phone conversations and telling you about my life story before you had to read it. And then I would even give a reference to you of someone in the Post that might be able to vouch for me. And it may be the Post president that you may know. And so there are, or the Post fellow, which every regional fellow should know. So it is incumbent on the nominee to make sure that people who are endorsing them knows them.
But it
Okay.
is
This is Ann. Can you hear me? Okay. Hope I'm not giving feedback. So one of the things, and this might help to understand how we do our scoring. If we see an endorsement come in that says, I've known this person for 15 years and we've gone out to lunch once a month, that does not get any more points than, hey, I'm the regional fellows point of contact. I started to get to know this person through phone calls over the last 2 months as they prepared for their fellows nomination. So I guess it's kind of, it is subjective, but they're not being able to meet the person face to face, not having a long-term relationship with this person, those are not going to be things that hold you back. You just need to demonstrate in the endorsement that, okay, this regional fellows point of contact and this nominee have made an effort over the last few months to get to, not even get to know each other, but get to understand the person's nomination, and maybe they've had the Post president or the RVP help facilitate that. So again, you aren't getting necessarily more credit for the actual detailed content of the endorsements. It's mostly just I can look at this and I can tell that this person made the effort to get to know or to be known to their regional fellows point of contact.
We have another question that's associated with if the regional fellow point of contact is in the review process and has yes or no decision. It is not a decision, it is a recommendation. So yes or no recommendation. Why is it necessary to have an endorsement from that regional fellow point of contact? Wouldn't it be better to find someone else? No. The regional fellow point of contact is not just reviewing something they've endorsed. They are reviewing everyone's package. The purpose in that is to give the regional fellow point of contacts a better understanding of the successful packages that are out there in the society. And as they guide and mentor future nominees, they can use that information as a resource to help those people. We want the regional fellow point of contacts to be a regional fellow mentor. And so to give them more information about other packages and to let them review them, I believe is terribly important for this whole process. So we, as a team, looked at it and said, yes, we still need them to do the yes, no, and yes, on their packets that they are the regional point of contact. They will do the endorsement.
So Betty, there was another question. I think the RFPSC can work with the facility to draft a suitable endorsement. I think you've answered that. Somebody had a good point. You can try and use the phone or Skype to get to know someone.
Yes.
Another good point, JATC is a good way to meet and get to know the RVP POCs, but imperative for RVP POCs to attend JATC. RF POCs need to attend JATC also. So I think the RVPs and RF POCs, yes, that is a great way. This is our national event.
It is.
And also regional events and post events. So.
And you know, as you are guiding those people who want to be fellows, and they may not turn the package in this year, but they may be asking questions about it. Coming to Jesse and meeting and actually any one of us taking them around to meet the other people in their region is just one of those things that we can do. And it's wherever you are in the academy and you want to help a member meet more people that would influence their future, that's what we should be doing.
So I'm going to take everybody off mute one last time. If anybody has any questions, chat box is open as well. Doesn't sound like anybody else has any more questions.
If you do end up having questions after this, like anyone who will listen to this in the future, they need to send those questions into National. It'll come into Kathy off, and she can send it out to the Academy and of the XC and get responses for you. So please, if the question comes up, if you're a regional fellow, if you're a nominee, you're a nominator, whoever you happen to be, if you have a question about your part of the process or the total process, please ask the question. The only bad question is one that you did not ask. And so we had 26 nominations last year. We had 19 of those were selected and 7 of those were deferred. We would hope that there is a greater interest this year, that they understand this process well. We have 45 of you have been on this call. So hopefully we will have at least 100 to 150 people will look at the webinar. Thank you very much for being involved in this process. It's terribly important. We want to bring the best people into the Academy of Fellows, and we as in the Academy of Fellows want to serve the society. So thank you very much.
Thanks,
Kathy.
all. Thanks all for joining. This will be posted to the website within the next week. Bye.
Thank you very much.